Welcome back to the PMR podcast. My name is Mitch. I'm an alcoholic addict. This is episode 51.
Episode 51. Really excited for this one. I'm Andrew. I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic. Last episode 50 with Mark was amazing. And we're quickly approaching a year of the podcast, which is also amazing. It's been an awesome run, and really grateful to be here. We were thinking of having Mark and our guest today as a pair together, but we decided it was too much personality for one podcast, so we split it up. It's a great honor of mine, and I'm really grateful to have my coworker, a mentor of mine, a great friend of mine, Dan, on the pod. Dan is 5 years sober. He's a recovery coach. He's an alumni director. He's a wellness associate, all at Herren Wellness. He's given his life to recovery, helping people, helping countless people, families, friends. He helped me in my journey. One of the first people I met at Herren Wellness. I think I remember fondly him poking fun about my hometown and getting me on the tennis court right away. But he started my recovery journey with a smile and telling me that I was going to be okay, and that's just what I needed. So really excited to have Dan on, and welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Mitch. Thanks for having me. I've been following you guys for a while, and it's pretty cool to be on the last one before your 1 year anniversary. First of all, I kind of been thinking about it. I wanted to congratulate you guys for what you do. You guys kind of make recovery cool, right? There's a stigma out there of what people of recovery look like, and you guys aren't it. And for you guys to be spreading the word and having people on here and celebrating your recovery for young people, I'm jealous, first of all, because I wish I could have done what you guys did at your age. And you're leading the way for a lot of young people that are struggling. That for me, I never knew recovery even existed. Right. I was who I was, and that was it. And to see guys like you on here doing this, it's like, it's cool. And that's kind of how my journey started at a young age. I was big into sports, and I kind of dove into that, but as I did some work, I kind of, looking back at it, man, I wanted more from whenever I could remember as a young kid. No matter what it was, I was always looking for the next thing, or, I could never have one cookie. I remember as a real young, like, I had a baseball card fascination, and I would do anything to get a card I wanted. You know what I mean? I'd go in these card stores, and I'd figure out a way how to get this stuff. I'd swindle people on trades. Like, I wanted to have it all. And it's funny, until I started doing the work, I didn't even realize these traits existed in me, and then it became sports, and I jumped into that, and I wanted to be the best I could at that. And my studies went by the wayside because all I cared about was playing hoop and playing football and hanging with the boys. And, I came from a great family. I'm the youngest of four, and I was the baby, and I was toted around to all kinds of things. I had a lot of things going for me. And 17, 18 years old, going to my first party, blacking out the first time I drank, getting dropped off at home, literally into the front door, and I couldn't wait to do it again. And I didn't see a problem with that. Like, that was it. Like, I wanted to hang out with the older kids. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to hang out with girls. I went to an all boys Catholic school, and we would hang out with the public school kids on the weekend. And I met more people, and I just wanted to fit in. And I just thought that was normal. Right. And, I was pretty good at football, and I got to play it in college, and I went to college, and all I cared about was the same things. I'm one of those guys, and I don't know if you guys can relate. Like, I'm a garbage disposal. I look back and I talk about it all the time. I never asked questions of what I was
Mm-hmm.
taking. And if something was there and someone said, "Hey, you want this?" I said, "Yeah."
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, that was just a fear of people looking at me like I was afraid or I wasn't a man. So like I did everything, right? And I graduated. I'm an old man, unlike you guys, and I graduated high school in like '97. So when I went to college, it was like the boom of ecstasy and OxyContin. It was when the '80s were out. People didn't know what they were, and my buddies had them, and we did them, and we called them. What did we call them? We called them itchy pills because we all scratched. And I remember that's all I could think about, and had no idea what I was getting into. I thought I was just a college kid trying, having a good time. It's easy to say that I was ill-equipped to be out in the world by myself. It was my first time away from home. I always had kind of been babied because I was the youngest by a good amount of time. Like I had a bunch of parents. I had my parents, and then my siblings were kind of my parents. And I got there, and I went ape shit. And it took. I think I went to my first treatment at like 23, and I didn't get sober till 39. So when I look at you guys doing this when you did, man, it kind of it gets me emotional to think of all. If I could have just put time into myself back then, all the pain and anguish I would have saved not only myself but the people around me. I mean, I put people through a lot of shit. I was blessed to meet a girl in my 20s who had a was a professional, was um, loved sports and was my best friend, and that got me on the straight and narrow for a while. I kind of my addiction became this relationship, and I kind of saw a different way to live, and I was like, wow, I can have nice things. And kind of going back to I have a pattern in my life of I never finished anything, right? I went to college. uh, my parents put a lot of resources into it. I never finished. I went back home. I thought that was okay. I started bartending, got into that scene. Coke came into my life. Like everything, every time it was just something else. Until I met this girl, and we got married, and she's a couple of years older than me, and she wants to have a family, and she's got a good job, and I was able to manage for a while until I wasn't. And I started using again in my early 30s. We started having kids. That's when the shame really started to pile up on me. Literally living, hiding everything, not telling the truth about anything, saying I'm going to the store, but really going somewhere else. Spending money I didn't have, trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, and it got out of control. And I became the money got tight, the pills started getting spare, couldn't get the pills, and I became a heroin addict. And that was my existence for a long time. I would go into IOP programs, I would go into detox, but I always, always, always thought when I got out I could just be normal, right? What I thought normal was. And that, and even now, that still plays a part in my life. I like look at other people and like, all right, that's how I should be. That's a normal life. And I reach for these things that don't even exist, and it was always jealous of other people. There was a lot of envy. I had a lot of successful people around me, and I was a disaster, right? So that honestly, my vision of myself, I felt like such shit about myself for what I was doing, how bad of a husband I was, son. You know, we keep having kids, beautiful children that I adore, and I'm living this lie. And I literally hated myself, and I really, I thought my destiny was to die in like a McDonald's bathroom, like have somebody walk in, find me on the floor, you know, oh, people would cry a little bit and move on with their lives. Like that's where my self-worth was. I settled for less in everything in my life, whether it was jobs, um, friends, whatever. The path of least resistance so I could get away with doing what I want to. And as we know, you can only carry that on for so long before the game, there's no more games left to play.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, you know, this went on for years and years, and I was very, very sick. I look at pictures now and I don't even, when I say I don't know who I was, I didn't know who I was. I think a lot of us have that thing in our life where I'd wake up in the morning and just be like, how am I going to do this today? I have no money. I got to feed, like I got to get food on the table. My wife's going to work and I need to get $150 to get heroin today, or I'm going to be deathly ill. And I would figure it out. And I burned a lot of bridges and I did a lot of things that I had to do a lot of work on to kind of forgive myself because I'll get triggered once in a while now. I'll see something that'll remind me of the shit I used to do. And it's like, man, there was no way to live. But I didn't think this was possible. I didn't think this was for me, right? I thought of AA as a bunch of old guys sitting around drinking black coffee. I didn't have people around me that were doing this. I didn't have young kids like you guys that I could, check out and be like, holy shit, this is possible. So in and out of treatment, get some sobriety, back on. I'd make a mistake and then right back to the opiates. I'd always start with something else, even, weed, have a beer, whatever, do coke, and I would always end up back right where worse than I always left off. So in 2018, I had nothing left. Literally, my shit was in a trash bag. I had 5 kids at the time. We just had twins. They were 3 years old. My wife's working full time. Kids are at home. It's a disaster, and I was pretty much told either figure this out or never come home. By my family, my wife, everyone. I had no friends left. Literally scrounging every day to get what I needed. And taking a lot of chances with a lot of people I love, putting a lot at risk. So I got sent down to Florida for detox, and I literally packed one bag, went down there, and never knew if I was going to come back. I went down there, went to a 12-step program, hadn't talked to my wife in 6 weeks, did some work down there. Almost like the feeling of just doing it because I have no other choice. Mm-hmm. Like I'm here. I don't know if I want to do this. I probably think I can't, but this is it. Right. So, me always being able to manipulate my way back into what I wanted, so I go into my counselor and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go home. He goes, dude, I don't know if you understand this, but there's no home. Like you don't have a home to go back to. And as tough as I think I am, running around in South Florida wasn't one of my goals. Like that kind of scared me. It was like, mm-hmm. I don't think I last down here. So I called, some calls were made, and then I was told I was going to Herren Wellness, which had just opened 3 or 4 months. I saw it at that time like, all right, at least I'm closer to home. I can maybe see my kids. And I came up here, and it literally changed my life. I can't tell you when it flipped that I could, because there's still days, let's be honest, where I don't think I can do it. Like, mm-hmm. Like there's times when I tell myself like, dude, you're not going to be able to figure this out. Negative self-talk's huge for me. You don't have to tell me, I'll tell myself. And when I'm in a bad space, it's like, who are you kidding, man? You can't stay sober. I always revert back to the way I used to be.
Yep.
So that's something I try to talk about all the time. Is like when I get negative thoughts about either the past or that I'm not good enough, I get it out there. And I still go to therapy, which I didn't do for like 2 years, and I got back to last year, thank God. I'm one of those, the people I recovery coach or anything, you can't go to enough therapy for people like us. I mean, I need outlets to talk about my shit. So I came up here, and I think there was about 10 or 11 guys up here, and I kind of just settled in for the first time in my life. And I was lucky because it was the summertime and Chris was around here a lot, and I was able to watch somebody who I could relate to. And I think that's so important in recovery, and one of the reasons we can't do it alone. Because if I don't think there's anybody like me doing it, how am I gonna ever think that I can? Right. Mm-hmm. So I saw a guy who lost it all, who had kids, who changed. And I'm like, all right, maybe I can do this. And honestly, I just didn't run. I think the key to my recovery early on was I didn't take off. Mm-hmm. And when people ask me, like, what's it going to take? And it's like, you need to stay here as long as you can until you start realizing that you can do it and it's worth it. And things started coming back. My wife visited with the kids. It was hard, really hard. I didn't know where that was going to go. And I started just to build a little momentum, right? And I was here about 6 months. I met some incredible people, set up a plan. And, the toughest part for me, I was always a treatment all-star. It's what are you going to do when you get out? Are you going to carry this over, or am I going to go back to doing it my way? That's another thing. I had to lose the ego because my ego got me in a lot of trouble. I know, and I say this every day to myself, you don't know shit about staying sober. I learn everything from everybody else. I just follow. And you know what? That to me now is one of the greatest gifts. It takes pressure off me. Like, I don't need to do this. I can just watch somebody else do it and do what they do. And I just really started watching people in recovery and kind of really just, that person has what I want. They look like they got it going on. I'm going to ask them, how did you do it? Right? I never asked for help in my life. I was going to go down with the ship because I didn't think I was worth anything more. Right? So I got out of here. I went back home and I got a get well job. My brother hired me in his office, and I was pretty much a gopher boy. I'd go get lunch, do a little computer work, but it got me up and it got me going. When I'm in my addiction, man, I don't want to get out of bed. Hygiene goes out the window. Food goes out the window. I'm one of those addicts when that's all I think about is the next one. I would see the dealer and already be planning, all right, I'll be back in 3 hours before I even go, that's how my obsession was serious. And then I got the opportunity to come back and work here as a WA. And I came in and I made some mistakes. I didn't know what I was doing. And there's still sometimes where I think I know everything. And I would get myself in I really had to learn how to watch somebody's journey without, I don't want to say interfering, but coming on too strong. And that's another thing. And I'd go to these treatment centers and they'd tell you, this is how you stay sober. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And if you do all these things, you'll stay sober. And that just didn't fit for me. And I started to realize that everyone's different. Like, the big book's amazing. And I went through the steps and all these things. But there's no manual for how I'm going to stay sober. I have to change it up a lot. Like, I get on a routine that works for me for a while. I start getting squirrely. I talk about it and I make adjustments. And that's what I learned here, that there's a lot of different avenues. Like, I meditate now. I never, ever thought I would. Like, and Andrew can speak to it. Like, he does breath work here. I try it. I might not be great at it, but I'm not going to say no to much. I really do as much as I possibly can because I need it. I'm one of those guys, all hands on deck. It takes a village. Like, I need every avenue possible. And some things I fall short on. And, I think really the key to long-term recovery for me is being able to realize your deficiencies and what you need to work on. all the time. Like I'm constantly balancing what I need to do. Like, all right, I'm not, sleeping well enough. I'm like whatever it is, and I just kind of straighten the boat out, and sometimes I get to get really squirrely before I ask for help because that's my mind. I'm not going to ask for help if I feel okay. I got to feel like real shit because I'm a drug addict, and then I'll ask for help. I wish that could change. I wish I could ask earlier. It would prevent a lot of, anxiety and stuff. But and as time went on here, my family's I got my daughter on campus right now because she wanted to stay with me. My other kids are at the Cape with my wife, and like I was talking about it last night. Like I was gone for my kid. My daughter was 8 when I was here. My twins were 3. Like they went to mom for everything. Like they stubbed their toe, they need help with homework, mom, 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 And just to get asked to do things to me keeps me in recovery some days. Like, Dad, yeah, can I stay home with you? What? Yeah, that wasn't happening. Yeah, we'll hang all weekend, And that's kind of the things I need to look at when I really don't feel like I can do this. I'm like, look what it's doing for everybody else around me. And it things around here have developed where about last January I was took over the alumni position, and that's really, I think having a purpose is huge. I don't think I ever had one until I started working in this field. I loved working with people in treatment, but when they get out, when they really need support, because I think that's the thing we do around here, I think that sets us apart is you come through here, you're in here for life, and we'll have meetings on Wednesday with people that were here when it first opened to people that left last week. And to me, that's just beautiful because it gives the people, I guess, an example of who to follow. And, it's been amazing. And recovery, me and Andrew recovery coach together, and we bounce things off each other. And it's like a team. And family work has become something I'd never thought I'd want to do, but being able to see the joy in families while their loved one is on this journey and starts making gains and starts getting better is an amazing thing. And you get to kind of just sit back and watch. So, to be able to work where I got well is that's it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. I drive into the place that saved my life every day. I get to see people that are changing their lives every day. I don't think no money in the world, I think for me can replace that, so yeah, it was a long journey. And it hasn't been easy. But from my mindset when I came here of not knowing if I wanted to, if I could, so on most days, I really believe I can get through anything sober. I believe it's unconditional. Sobriety is unconditional. Before it was, I'll stay sober unless my wife leaves me. If she leaves me, I'm drinking. If, somebody dies, I'm drinking. Now it's like, no, I can do anything. And I'm really proud of it. And I don't hide my sobriety anymore. I used to try to do that shit too. Mm-hmm. Like I started this. I think sobriety is cool. I have cool friends. To not have to change ourselves for people, I think is one of the coolest things in the world. I am who I am. I have flaws. I can deal with that, but I don't need drugs to mask it anymore. I can own my behavior. If I screw up, all right, I screwed up, but it's not going to take me down. And I think that's the biggest thing in recovery. And I'll end my little spiel with this. Somebody asked me the other day, how do you know when somebody's recovered? And I've been thinking about this for a while. How do you know when somebody's getting better? And I just bring it back to myself. When I started thinking about others, my whole life, it was about Dan. No matter what was around me, I got what I wanted when I wanted it, and it was all about me. When I started thinking and caring about other people is when I knew I was getting better. So thank you for letting me go on for 30 minutes, but I appreciate it.
Oh man, thank you for sharing. To be honest with you, Danny, I've known you for over 2 years. I've never heard you explain and kind of tell your story in full before. So thank you for doing that. Number one, um, a couple of things came to my mind. Obviously, you and I both being athletes, like, I mean, I could identify with that kind of like that identification of my whole character, like, was based on I'm an athlete. And that's what's gonna kind of get me through everything. Like, that got me out of a lot of jams. Like, I got pulled over in high school. Like, I get caught with stuff in high school, but like, I'm from a small town and they knew, like, all right, this kid's on the basketball team, this kid's on the lacrosse team. Like, I got away with stuff because I was a semi-successful athlete, and that got me into college. It got me, and eventually, like, it was my excuse of, I can do drugs fine because I could still show up at practice and like perform.
Yeah.
And that was like that's like the whole reason, to me, that I was able to justify my drug use for a long time. And I think Mitch can identify with that too, just being where, his background. If you could see the background of Mitch's screen, those are his times from his records. Mitch, you're gonna have to explain that a little
What
bit.
kind of
But
records
Mitch,
you got, Mitch?
Thank you, Andrew. I have a couple records at Denison, the college we went to for swimming.
Nice.
Yeah.
The sports too, man, it gave us like this identity of like, you never wanted to seem weak either, right? Like, we competed everything. I'm never gonna say no. Like, I'm never gonna let people think I can't do something. And like, that was my total mindset all the time. And in school too, like, all right, I'll just get C's and play sports. I'll be all right. Like, I didn't want to achieve at anything. And I wasn't as good of an athlete as I should have been because of my ego and in my extracurricular shit. Like, you know what I mean? It just,
no, like, I wanted to be in the club, but I didn't want to have to put any.
Right.
I didn't want to have to put any work in. Like, I
Right.
wanted all the perks, like,
Yeah.
of being in it without having to do any of the extra work to actually be a successful athlete. You know what I mean? And so I could identify with that. And being the baby, I mean, I only have one older brother, but I was the baby of the family as well. And I just remember, like, always wanting to be like the star of the show, because I was like, I'm the novelty kid at the party. Like, I'm the youngest one there, and I'm the, like, oh, you brought your brother. Like, your brother's so cool. He's young, but he can still party with us. And I wanted so badly to just like prove myself. Like, I belong in this crowd of people. I belong in this, like, with my older brother and with all of his athlete friends in college, whatever. So, I mean, I could see myself there too. It's it's amazing to me, kind of switching gears, Danny, like how much you balance, like, in your life. Like, you have 5 kids, like, you wear a million hats, like, and it a true, like, just like thinking about when, like, doing this little intro that I did, like, it doesn't begin to encompass half of what you do there. So, hearing, like, knowing that, and knowing on top of like all the stuff that whatever, like, is part of your job description, like, you're on the phone all the time with people that rely on you. Like, when I'm talking to my friends who I went through there with, like, for instance, I talked to Dan Powers yesterday on the phone, and we were bouncing like relationship stuff off each other. Like, and he was like, "Yeah, I was talking to Danny about it," and I was like, I'm like, "You still talk to Danny?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude, I talk to Danny all the time." And I was like,
Yeah.
"What?" Like, it's just you're how far you reach into this community is insane. And I guess my question is, like, how, because I'm 25 years old and whatever, it's cool, I'm in recovery, like, and I think Mitch, maybe you can relate to this, Mitch, too, but I have trouble balancing like fucking two things. Like trying to like, for instance, we had a kind of an impromptu phone call earlier this morning, and I'm like at the gym, and I'm all of a sudden I'm jammed up. I'm like, shit, I gotta hurry, I gotta get home, I gotta like. So how does that work for you? Because I would get jammed up, I think.
Yeah, it's like you're talking to the most disorganized person probably in America. So I had to kind of learn the hard way. For the first time in a long time, I missed a call a couple weeks ago and it ate me up because I was doing stuff and I had a scheduled call and then I got the text, oh, sorry, we didn't connect. And I was like, oh man, I need to figure shit out because in this thing, when you tell somebody you're going to call them, you better call them, right? Because you never know, especially when it comes to families. I just recovery's first. All right. That's the key to this whole thing. Without recovery, I have nothing. I have to keep that up front every single day. And my family's next. And I've had to get better at it, Andrew. Like I've had to do not disturb has been kind of the best thing I've ever found on my phone. I kind of had to set boundaries. I don't answer the phone late at night anymore. I'll get back to you. As we know, working in this thing, some people aren't doing well that reach out, and I've had to really take a step back from getting myself mentally into that game. But one thing, because of my journey, I think, and I was always taught, I don't say no to much, especially when it comes to helping somebody who wants help. And I'm able just to figure it out. I have support at home. My wife, I live an hour away from work, so there's a commute, and that's always been fully supported. I have amazing coworkers that I have to ask for help to stay in balance. So if there's something that I can't do, I have to reach out, right? Because I don't want to get overwhelmed, one, and I'm really servicing nobody to anybody, including myself, if I'm overwhelmed, anxious, and all these things. So I just try to prioritize and just, if I can't do something, I'm not too hard on myself. But usually I can fit everything in because I have support. I'm not a lone ranger. Like Andrew, I'll ask you to do something. When my pride wouldn't let me ask for help.
Right.
But I think, we talk to guests about it all the time. Like, what are your priorities? If your priorities are to make money and be rich and have a big house, then recovery is going to be hard for you, right? If it's, the job or, all these things, I just because I've tried every other way. So I failed at every other way. The only way this is going to work is if I keep this up front, that without staying sober today and doing what I have to do and working in this field, Mitch, too, like, yeah, we're helping, but where am I getting help? Right? Because I did that for a long time too. Like, yeah, I can help everybody else, but inside I'm a disaster. So what am I really doing? So I think, especially working in this field, you better have a group of people, man, that you can rely on, that you can run your shit by. And that's why going to a therapist is so huge for me, because I have that outlet to go and talk. Because if I make it about, I'm really good at making it about everybody else and not taking care of myself.
Yeah. I agree with that. When I first started, and even now, sometimes I have this like imposter syndrome when I have guys telling me that, like, complimenting me and stuff like that, and how fast that like I believe it, and I start to act that way, and I start to act in ways that I don't want to act. And thank you for sharing your story too. I think I related to a lot of what you said about looking at others and like the jealousy. I was like raised by I was an only child raised by just my mom. And so I always compared to other families and stuff, and other friend groups, and the self-hate because I compared my situation was palpable. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I definitely related to that. I think like early in my recovery too, like well, that's not what I was going to say. When you're talking about balance, doing it on your own and stuff, I feel like sometimes I try to take, and I hear from you on this. I feel like I have to do it all. You're talking about asking for help, and I feel like if I ask for help from other people, and I do, but sometimes if that doesn't get done, and then I'm like, oh, I'm the only one that can do this for that person, and that's not true. But that's like, I feel like in the last couple months, or specifically this last month in my new position, it's like, I'm in a new position. I have to do all this, and I'm working, till like 9, 10, doing extra stuff, not like you say, turn the phone off, set that boundary up. So how did you start to implement that, and just the trusting in others to do
Yeah,
that?
because I had to realize this was very hard for me, that I'm not the most important person in the world, and there's
Yeah.
plenty of them. This place will be fine if I never walk back in the door. I think, like you say, people start, giving you compliments and you're feeling good about yourself. You sit, I'm I'm going to save the world here, and you realize quick that you're just one person and you're in recovery, and I really don't know shit. So like I can point you in the right direction. And I really think the biggest help I can give somebody if I don't know what the hell I'm talking about is to send them to somebody that knows what's going on. You know what I mean? Like there's been times where I think I could solve problems that I have no business getting involved in, but I know somebody that does. If you're going to come talk to me about finances, man, don't come to me. I know a girl in the office right now that will help you go on a budget. I'm not that guy. So I think it's just humbling myself to like, shit, like if I walked out, I know for a fact Andrew could walk in here and do my job this afternoon. So it's like, it's just keeping yourself centered and like, because usually when my ego's flared up, it's because I feel like shit inside. I'm going to present like I can do everything. I think when I'm right sized and on the beam and I'm praying and I'm doing all these things, I'm going to say, uh, I'm at a loss here. I can't fix this. Can you help me? And it's not always perfect. Sometimes I got to fail at something or something bad's got to happen for me to realize it. But I think if we can keep ourselves on that path of, I'm just another guy in recovery, I don't know shit. Like I'm trying to find the answers just like you. So I think I kind of try to put my recovery life into my work life, into my family life. It's not perfect, but that's what I try, you know?
And
Definitely.
it's hard because like, and Danny, you've seen this from me. Like I have trouble asking for help. Like because it's number one, it's a tendency and like a behavior from active addiction. Like I don't want to ask for help. It's not something that like I want to figure this out on my own. Like if I ask for help, then it's gonna open up a whole Pandora's shit box that I like is gonna ruin everything. And so that's number one. And number two is now I have this whole like it's it's false, but a false belief that all right, if I'm sober and in recovery, then I shouldn't need help.
Yeah.
Like if I'm like going to meetings or working the steps or I have a sponsor, then like I shouldn't need help with work stuff. Like it then nobody should be bothered by my shit. And then the
Yep.
third thing that comes into play is the pride thing. It's like why would I defer to somebody else? Like why would I like I know what I'm talking about. I can figure this out. Like
Yeah.
and it's been a hard like and Danny has seen it like it's a hard learning process of like say I have a guy that I'm having trouble with in recovery coaching. Like my old tendency would be like I'm gonna figure this out. Like I'm gonna try to whatever like talk to him, and it ends up kind of just being like this. And what I realize is I'm doing a disservice to that person. Like because I'm not ask by not asking for help, by not pulling someone in to like help me or a new perspective to maybe change the way we're approaching the problem. Like I'm not providing like I'm not providing sound recovery coaching advice to this person. And so it's not something that's just hurting me. It's hurting somebody else because I couldn't ask like because I couldn't put my pride to the side for 2 seconds and say, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing. Like
Yeah.
that's right. Like for me, if full disclosure is that's a scary thing for me to say. It's like I don't
Yeah.
know what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
It's a big thing for me, you know. I think we all come to a point with people like I have to recognize that maybe my personality doesn't match with a certain person, or my outlook is different. There's a different path, and we're like this, right? And the hardest thing to do is say, hey, can you take this person? We need a different angle. But that's why I think the team concept is so important. Not one person could have kept me sober, guys. Like I needed a lot of different people, and I had to kind of navigate my way through it. And I really try to recognize, like, all right, because just like a coach, man, good coaches get fired all the time because their message gets stale. Sometimes my message is stale, and we need a new voice, and I try to keep that in front. It's not about me. If I can keep that going, like this person has a family and needs to stay sober, it's not about me, it's about them staying sober, then I'm going to grab other things. But if our ego gets in the way and I want to save the world, and I'm sober so I can get this guy sober, it's hard, and then sometimes we have to fail at it I had to fail at it before I changed my philosophy on that. Because there's nothing more frustrating for a guest or us as employees to kind of be at an impasse where it's just not working. And that happens with therapists all the time. And that happens with us. They need a different voice. And there's nothing more I like to see someone else come take over and that person flourish. That's probably something I wouldn't have said a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And we talked about a couple episodes ago too. You never know like what kind of seed that you plant from, you don't know who's watching or what they're hearing or seeing you do that might play a role down the roll into cracking through to something else. I feel like those things kind of compound on each other. I think well, when you guys are talking about the recovery coaching and stuff, I was thinking about this before we were doing the episode. Like, what's the difference between a recovery coach and a sponsor? And what's the difference between what we do? We all work in recovery, and a sponsor. I talk with my sponsor a lot about this. And he's told me multiple times very clearly, what you do is your job. What you do is you're not their sponsors. You're not their sponsor. We're a primary mental health. We have a lot of guys co-occurring. So even at that level, we're not a substance only place. So hear you guys' opinion on that. What do you think about like how do those mesh together? Because we're there's money included in what we do, and that it's not bad. I know we're working with others. We're being of service, but we're also being paid. So it's interesting.
So it's a little different. It's like I look at it. I'm a recovery guide, right? And I just kind of have a checklist of things like, do you have I don't get involved with the sponsor stuff. I'm not working steps with my I'm making sure they have a sponsor, they have a therapist, they go into meetings. If they're not, I'm involved with their family, checking in, making sure they're doing the right things, helping them get a job, helping them find a therapist, kind of like literally a coach, a guide. I'm guiding this person into recovery, and getting a sponsor is probably the number one thing they need to do. Right. And not owning the results is one of and my director here we can't own the results. This is a tough thing. And that's hard for me. When somebody's struggling, it's really, 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 really hard for me to take a step back and see it as hey, this is a disease, not everyone's single path is going to be different. I didn't pick it up the first. And that's another thing, Mitch, about this thing that I learned. It's like the judgmental thing. I'm sober a while. I'm going to start judging people relapsing. Dude, you relapsed every day for 19 years. Like, you were a disaster. Nobody could get through to you. Who am I to say, look down at somebody for relapsing? No, what's the plan? And that's always kind of what I go into this with a client or a guest is what's the plan going forward? We're not going to get stuck in this. We need to figure out how we're going to move forward, but it's very hard. I've had to catch myself a lot of times being like, you have no right judging anybody. And judgment in this field is bad. We feel bad enough about us. I don't need some dude telling me that I'm bad because I drink,
Yeah, my one of my guys in the home group, he worked in recovery for a long time, and I talk about it in there sometimes. And one of the main things he said was, and we've said this, I have it on my phone, I know it, but I have it as a daily reminder on my phone: recovery first, present moment. Try to just always keep my recovery first, because you see, I've seen already, like if you work in recovery and you start to make that your recovery, you start to, I'm gonna skip the meeting, this my home group, I'm gonna miss this, I got to go to work, stuff like that. Pretty much out of nowhere, that's your new program. And I was told, I was warned, you can become resentful, you can become judgmental, you can become towards people you're working for, trying to help. And that's a crazy flip that can happen. So it's awesome to hear you, and it helps me reinforce, like we have to always put our stuff
Yeah.
first, always.
If I don't take care of my shit first, I'm going to suck at my job. I'm going to suck at home. I'm going to be miserable. Let's be honest. If I'm a dry drunk, dry addict, right, and I'm not doing anything, I might as well be using and drinking,
Right.
because my attitude is going to be, I'm going to be snarky. I'm going to be mean. I'm going to be resentful. If I'm full of resentments and I come into work and try to help somebody who's 3 days sober,
Mm.
I'm not going to do a good job, and sometimes you got to get checked. And I got people around me. They're like, dude, are you doing anything? When's the last time, And then when they ask that question, I'm like, all right, I know what you mean. Like it's a tough balance, but I wouldn't trade it for, like, to see somebody come back to life, because we don't see it in ourselves, but I can see my recovery through my progression of recovery through somebody else. And I'll pinch myself, like, I've been lucky enough, most of the meetings, alumni meetings, or anything I do, I have seen every single person. I've either been a guest here with them or I've seen them walk through the door. That's pretty cool. I don't know how many
Mm-hmm.
people can hang their head up. Literally, I've seen every single person with that walk with the trash bag that I can see myself making, not knowing what is going to happen in my life. I've seen that. I saw it with Andrew. I saw him come to life. He cut his hair, right? He got smooth. He had an afro when he came in. And I've seen him grow into a man, you know?
Yeah, I
How
was a
cool is
kid.
that?
I was a kid when I showed up there, and I do like it's I've been thinking about it this whole time as you've been talking, like, and I want to hear a little bit about your experience with it, but like you saw me, and I just remember like I couldn't look anyone in the eyes, like when I got in there, and I, because I was so ashamed, like thinking I'm 23, like in treatment, like, and like you said in your story, like I was settling for less, like all over the place. Like I was lucky. I found a way to graduate from college, but like path of least resistance for my addiction. Like I got a job on Nantucket stocking blueberries at a grocery store. Like that was my job, and I couldn't even perform the job. Like I was unable to carry out that task. So like I hated myself big time when I stepped in there. Dan saw it. Like at people who were guests with me saw it. And I didn't even know who I was. So I put on initially I'm like putting on a show, and I got this whole facade thing going. And I think you said something along the lines of like, like I can't wait till we see like what you really
Yeah.
like, because I was putting on a show, like, and that's a hard thing, like to hate yourself, to hate, for me to hate myself so much, like I didn't even, and I don't know if it was what your experience with it was like, and Mitch too, like I didn't even know who I was, like after, like when I started to do the work, really, like I said, okay, like I'm gonna do this, like and I'm working with Emily, I'm working with life coaches, I'm working with you, and I'm like I don't even know like who I really am, because everything internally is like you're not worth anything, like your life is a mess, like you're never going to get this, like what's the point, and everything on the outside is all a show and like a lie. So I don't know, like I didn't even know who I was, you know what I mean?
And that was, to be honest, I was scared to know who I was.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, I was good with kind of just being whoever, a chameleon, and being whoever I needed to be to get who I wanted. You know, and it's funny, like we watch people walk into treatment. It's like, if I see somebody skipping and smiling walking into treatment, I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be a lot of work. Right. Like for me, I never came into treatment with with anything left. If there was anything left in the tank, I was using it. Right. I was going to run on E. And I came in really beat up, just like you. And add 15 years of pain into it. Like there was a lot going on. And sometimes, and my therapist tells me this all the time, dude, you're doing something that a lot of people, not many heroin addicts get sober and stay sober at 39, no medication. Like sometimes we got to give ourselves credit for what we do. We always want to think of the negative. I want to go back to who I was. Nah, man, I'm doing something that is special. And you guys, as young people, are doing something that is amazingly special. It doesn't happen. You guys are setting a trend of a whole, what's the word, a generation of people that are talking about feelings, getting sober. We didn't, my generation, we didn't talk about shit. I see young people come in the door now and they're open books, and that's amazing. So, like, people like you guys, like, I still feel weird doing it. It's not natural. I'm getting used to it because if I want to feel good, I have to do it. But yeah, I mean, I saw you and the eyes started and you started to figure out what you wanted. You started to say, and another huge thing is people saying no to things. I said no to I wanted to make everybody happy because I wanted to keep up. Sometimes I got to say no, like, nah, I'm not going to go do that. You know, and I was thinking too, I wanted to hit on this is, you know, you guys have a disadvantage of like, you have a social aspect. I'm married with kids. Like I have to go to certain social events, but I can figure a way out, right? You guys are in the dating, like young people mode. So for you guys to do what you're doing, I could never do it. And that's why I put myself in that position. I could never get through that. So to see you guys thriving in social situations and having fun, that's amazing.
I appreciate it. I mean, it's not like, you know, for me, and I did, Danny, I think you know this, like I don't put myself in a lot of those situations. Like I'm not gonna say I live a boring life because I live a life second to none. I'm very, very, very lucky and blessed, but I don't do what a typical 25-year-old might do. Like you
Thank
won't
God.
find me, you won't find me at a bar on
No.
a Friday or Saturday night. Generally, you know, you'll find I go to concerts, I'll go do whatever, but it's hard. Like you said, like I'd still get that feeling sometimes, and like that's when that self-hate and that self-judgment will creep back in. Like, damn, Andrew, like you can't even, like everyone I know is going to go do this or go do that, and I can't be there because I won't be in safety. Like, and that's just like a whole. It's like just it's a perspective shift. That's what it is. Like sometimes, like I'll sit in a meeting and I'm like, damn, I have to be here, like because I'm an alcoholic, and if I don't do this, I'll probably drink. Or it could be like, damn, I'm so lucky I'm here. Like so many people don't get this,
Right.
and I'm here, and maybe I don't have to ever do this again. Like, and maybe I don't ever have to be like a newcomer again. Maybe this is it, and my life is just going to continue to get better because I'm going to these things. Like, thank God they have these meetings. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, and it all depends on my mood for that day. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because I could be in both places.
I can,
You know
yeah,
what
I
I mean?
wrote, I kind of tell myself this all the time. I don't have to do this. I get to do it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think if I keep that in front, like, man, I have more opportunities than I've ever had in my life because of this. So staying home on a Friday night, it's, you
Pretty
know,
good.
where's the balance there? Is it really worth it? And you were talking about getting annoyed. I started to realize I like to do things that I never thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have more fun in the small shit than I did ever had before. I go to more things, like you were saying, events, and I have a ball. Weddings, I have a ball, but I know when to get the hell out.
Yeah.
because I I see shit going on around me. We all have that sense of, oh, look what's happening over here. Look, like I get the hell out. Like I know when that time is, but I
Mm-hmm.
think protecting that early on is obviously important, and it's something I think about every time I'm going somewhere. Like I always have a plan, and I think for young people, for old people, I don't put myself in too many dangerous situations. But there's
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
things we can avoid doing, right?
Yeah, me neither. I feel like when I first moved to LA, I tried to like go out and see what's going on. And then
Yeah,
I
how
was
was
like,
that?
no,
How was that?
not good. That's not for me. Especially like there's like the whole club, all that. I mean, I mean, I didn't even, you know, what's crazy is that I always thought I was like a super social butterfly and that I was really good with people and stuff like that. And then when I got sober, I was like, I'm actually extremely anxious in big groups and like do not enjoy being in parties and stuff like that. And part of that was being sober and uncomfortable there. But the only reason I had fun in those situations was because I was not mentally there.
Yep.
And
Yep.
like a lot of my using too was to be like I used to a point to be able to go into situations because I had a crazy anxiety of just being around people. But I think like to close us out, I do want to hit the community piece real quick. Just talking about the community you guys have there, and you're obviously one of the people playing a big role there in building that
Leaders.
community and fostering that community. Yeah, and so and I've seen. I know you're not going to take credit for it, but I've seen like all the guys that have come on here, talked with Andrew, and being the alumni director. Just want to say thank you for helping to foster that. I know that's challenging and checking in on people when they leave and stuff like that. Like the impact that you make and the impact that Andrew makes over there is beautiful. I mean, I've said this like 4 episodes in a row because we're having all the Herren boys on, but
Herren Wellness Month.
that's right. But it's like I'm jealous of the community that you guys have there. I mean, it's like it's a family, and that's beautiful. And like you said that when you went in there, you saw Chris and you learned from him. Andrew saw you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Learn from you, and you guys pass that down, and you grow like that. That's a beautiful thing. So, thank you for being a part of that and doing what you guys are doing.
Oh no, thank you, Mitch. And yeah, it's in my like work, other than my kids and my wife, it's the most thing I'm proud of that more than anything in the world. And I've met some of the most amazing people. I've connected. I've gotten friendships that will be lifelong from it. And the pride that the people that have come through here take into this place and what they give back. We have a program here where we connect current guests to an alumni, and nobody's ever said no to me. And they check in, and for someone to leave here knowing they have somebody that they'll see at alumni meetings, someone that they've bonded with. I mean, that's huge. I know how many times I didn't go to meetings because I didn't know anybody. I didn't think I was going to
Mm-hmm.
know anybody, or I felt weird. To have a face and on Wednesdays to have 40 people here having dinner with our guests, it's like, holy shit. I don't know how it happened. It happened because Chris, Heather, and Lori had a vision, and it's just taken it to a life of its own. And I'm just lucky. I'm just blessed to be on the ride because it helps me. It's really my passion, and I really can't put it into any more words than that.
I think the difference, and like not to talk badly about any other treatment places or anything like that. If anybody's going to get help, that's terrific. Like, but for me, the biggest difference when I was there, and I hid on Wednesday nights, I hid for a couple weeks for
Under
sure,
his
like
Mitch under
because
his
I was
bed.
overwhelmed. And like Mitch said, I didn't like the big crowds, and I was like, why are all these people smiling and laughing? Like this doesn't make any sense. But like the biggest difference for me is that people came back, like, and as a guest there, like thinking my life like is in shambles. And I'm like, why? Like, I'm hopeless. I'm like, my life is over. I'm 23 years old, and I'm never gonna have any fun again. And then and then people came back for alumni on Wednesdays, and I'm talking to these people who are in their 20s, to, 2-3 years of sobriety, and and they're back, they're coming back to their treatment center for a meeting and to have dinner and to hang out. And I was, for me, that was a big shift for me. Like I saw that and I was like, wow, like these people willingly came back where they got well, and are smiling and are laughing, like they passed the message to me. And so, that whole system, like, saved my life, really. Like it gave me hope again, seeing all those people there. And I can't, again, it's hard for me to put into words how impactful it is for me, and just how lucky I am to be a part of it now. But Danny, that's like, I know you didn't start it, but like you said, like you were there at the beginning, and like you said, not a single person can walk through on Wednesday nights and you don't know them. Like you don't know them personally. Like they know your name, you know their name, and you guys know each other.
Yes.
And that is unbelievable. Like unbelievable. So I'm really, really excited, like, that you came on today. I'm grateful you came on today. You for whatever shit you talk about yourself, like you are a pillar of recovery.
Oh
For
no, I'm
me,
not.
you're a power of example.
That's right.
Your ego is gonna grow 10 times.
No, it's not.
Not.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
But for real, just seeing you go through it every day, like, it gives me hope that I can do it too. So I thank you for that, and I'm really grateful you came on today.
And thank you for connecting me with Mitch. I'll hit you up all the time, and
Oh,
we do this shit together, right?
Yes, we do.
It's an amazing thing, and I don't know where I'd be without it. I know I wouldn't be in here talking to you guys, and I'm thankful for it. And I just wanted to say congratulations on 1 year, and to many more. You guys are killing it, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you. It was awesome to hear you speak today, talk with you, and just like meeting all the guys from Herren. It's just been awesome. It's been awesome to feel a part of that community and see that. So Andrew, thank you for opening me up to that. And yeah, this has been another banger, episode 51.
And me and Andrew will take a trip out this soon. I can
That's what Mark said too.
Oh,
Andrew knows what's behind door number 1. There's an open room right there.
Really?
It's been there for a year.
Me to move in there for a year.
And I'm paying for it. So
Mitch, he's not moving there, but we'll go visit.
We'll rock, paper, scissors.
All right. I love you guys. Thank you.
All right. Love you. Everyone that was listening, really appreciate it. Episode 51. Almost 1 year. We're almost there. Thank you, Dan, for joining us. It's been amazing. We'll keep coming back.
Thank you.
Clean Cause is a pretty awesome company. They sell yerba mate drinks. The founder is in recovery, and they put 50% of their net profits back into those struggling with addiction and alcoholism. Absolutely love their company. Absolutely love their message, and very thankful for them to partner with us. If you're interested in getting some, you go to their website, cleancause.com. All right. When you're checking out, you're going to enter in Mitch20 into the discount code area, and that's going to get you 20% off on these fire drinks. Right now, I got that cherry lime. All right. Enjoy this week.